Okay, the summary of the judgment which I have here, I printed them, is 33 page, and we're not going to go, but the summary is with me here. It says, number one of the things says, the court simply finds on the narrow question before it that Mr. Abubakar is entitled to the production of documents and testimony that he seek from Chicago State University. So the summary of the whole thing is that all the arguments put across there to counter Atiku Abubakar's request, the question, they say he is entitled to it. That's number one. Number two, it says the court cautions President Tinubu that any request for a stay of execution before this court will be denied. They said any further request of an injunction to stay execution, let me press again, let me appeal again. He says that request will be denied. Why? Now, listen to the reason why the judge said it will be denied. He says, as the court finds any stay impracticable in the light of the fast approaching Supreme Court of Nigeria's deadline. Did you see their reason? The reason of the judge in America says, we will not honor any other appeal or any other stay of execution, because by honoring it, it might affect the time that Atiku need to submit it to the Supreme Court. What do you call justice? What do you call which means the judge is trying to say, by accepting any other stay of execution from you, is to technically make it impossible for Atiku to succeed in his own submission. And because of that reason, we will not honor it. Now, let's compare it with what we get here in Nigeria. Let's compare it with the judiciary in Nigeria that will see, as a matter of fact, that someone needs judgment in order to be able to find a path in life, and the court will sit on it and actually manufacture reason why they would delay the person. Okay, and so the court now says here, Chicago State University is directed to produce all relevant and non-privileged documents in response to requests for productions of numbers 1 through number 4, as narrowed by Judge Gilbert and adopted by this district court in its opinion. Meaning the whole opinion of the previous judge, the court says we adopt all of them, we accept all of them, no delay again. As I read further, there was one prayer Atiku prayed that Judge Gilbert, the former judge, said, no, we will not honor it. This particular court actually gave the reason. He said that the reason why Judge Gilbert, because they reviewed Judge Gilbert's judgment, the reason why Judge Gilbert limited it and said, no, let's not go here, is because it would take more time for the university to finish that, and if he has to wait, it might affect him, Atiku, for his own submission in Nigeria. Can you imagine how they are putting human face in judgment? So Judge Gilbert is saying, this thing you're asking, I don't want to honor it, because if I honor it, I will defeat your purpose of beating a deadline. So I am asking myself, what other blame do we have when we blame white man sometimes for being our problem? Because from every indication here, according to Atiku's request, Atiku has up to 5th of October to make his final submission of evidence to the Supreme Court. And this judge is saying, now listen here, it says, they have to make it available to Mr. Atiku by 12 noon on Monday, October 2, 2023. Then another one, the rule of deposition, meaning another request that Atiku asked when he said he needs to interview Chicago State University officials under oath. The judge again says that one must be ready before 5 p.m. on Tuesday. So Chicago State University is now under pressure. Before the close of business tomorrow, the document will be made available to Atiku. And before the close of business on Tuesday, Atiku's lawyer would have interviewed the staff he wants to interview under oath.
Under oath.
Yes.
This is frightening, honestly.
So, why should another country be more interested in the delivery of justice in our country? And our own priests in the temple of justice are looking for more technicalities to deny us justice in our own country. Are we cursed? So this is the summary of the judgment. The summary of the judgment. It says here again, the reason again, he says, now listen, the judge said, the reason why all these things, he says, given the October 5th, 2023 filing deadline before the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the court will not extend or modify these deadlines. Are you seeing the reason? The woman is saying that the court, because of the deadline that Atiku has, there will be no deadline to Chicago State University. On one hand. There will be no stay of execution peradventure Tinubu's lawyer file for any form of stay of execution. Which means if Tinubu's lawyer wants to delay this judgment, the judge says, let me tell you ahead of time, it will not be honored. If Chicago State University says, oh, we don't have time or we don't have the staff, the judge is saying no extension. Whatever you people are going to do, do it. American judicial system is trying to say, Nigeria, any way we want to help you people to establish the truth in your own country, we will help you. Because the first caveat the woman put here says, the court therefore grants the application. It says the court is not taking any position on what any of the document or testimony from the Chicago State University may or may not ultimately show. They said, we're not taking any position. The only thing is that Atiku qualifies when he stated that and that he needs this document in the court in Nigeria. Whether the document will serve his purpose or will not serve his purpose, we don't care. The only thing is that it is his right and we deliver it to him. Now, relate it with FBI and co. Calling David Hunde saying, before this person was a private citizen, now he's a public citizen. And by another rule we have here, any information sought of a public citizen, we can get it. Do you know that that particular statement made by FBI, even you listening to me now, even me doing this, I can even apply to Chicago State University because I will say, this person is a public citizen. I want this information. And it will be granted to me. Now, that is the summary of the judgment as I have here. If you want it, we can post it in the comment section. Request it and we post it for you there. The summary is one-page summary. But now, there are other things the judge pointed out that is the meat of the matter. What led to the judge taking the decision that she took? It says here that former judge, Judge Gilbert, found that the requests by Tinubu were reasonably tailored to obtain information that will help him to support his appeal in the Nigerian Supreme Court. And Mr. Abubakar's interest in obtaining this discovery outweighs Tinubu's private rights. Why? Now listen. He says, because he had put his diploma at issues by submitting it to INEC. Are you listening to it now? He says, the judge is trying to say, the reason why Atiku's prayer outweighs Tinubu's privacy right he's trying to claim is because having made his submission public to a public body, INEC, there's nothing like privacy again. Anything he puts out there is open for us to scrutinize. How can a judge in America be telling us the things we have been telling our judges here? How can you put out something in a public domain and you are still saying that you have a privacy right over it? So the former judge says it outweighs it, and this current judge sustained the prayer. That is number one. Now listen again. It says, Abubakar's discovery, it says, specifically, Judge Gilbert narrowed Mr. Abubakar's fourth document request above, excluding the request for any and all communications concerning Barrister Orr. Barrister Orr, ORR, is the name of the other, the lawyer representing Chicago University. He said, Barrister Orr document, because it will call for time-consuming and burdensome electronic discovery that was particularly infeasible in light of the looming Supreme Court deadline. So every other thing the former judge did not grant were things he knew that based on the deadline Atiku gave him, if he granted it, it may not be possible. And the judge is trying to say, I can't kill the university to produce for you what is not possible within that time. So there is a human face when we come to court. This thing the appeal court judges did with technicality, boom, technicality, that. This one was not submitted like this. They see fraud before them. They say, oh, there is a fraud. But you're supposed to enter through Rule 10 to come and tell us about the fraud. And you enter through Rule 9.8. Therefore, we throw it away. Do you see that that is not the way cases are handled? I don't know if there's any one of us here who listened to the judge in the UK deliver judgment against Ike Ekweremadu. When I listened to that judge, I realized that the rules of submit this, submit that did not apply. The man looked at the case. He looked at the injury the intention could have caused to the other person. And by the time he summarized his case, I kept my head on my hands on my head. I'm like, if this is how judges reason, why don't we have justice on the streets of Nigeria? Why? Do you know that the way the judge that handled Ekweremadu's case, that they handled the judgment in the UK, and this judge, is it Maldonado? What do they call her? Maldonado. The way she writes and put things here. If these judges were to be in Nigeria, they wouldn't even need Labour Party or PDP to present evidence. They will simply tell INEC chairman, I saw you in Chatham House. They will tell Festus Okoye, I listened to you in channels. And they themselves will subpoena them to come and say in person, those things you say in Chatham House and those things you say in channels and the Electoral Act I'm looking for at here. What nonsense do you think you did? But our own judges saw all those things. Our own judges have the Electoral Act. They even omitted the section of the Electoral Act that mandated that INEC would do certain things. And they just walked away and trashed the case. Now listen again here. There's another beautiful thing the court says. The court had argument from counsel to Abubakar and counsel for Tinubu on the nature of Judge Gilbert's ruling and what procedure the court should follow in light of time-sensitive nature of the request. It keeps going. Time-sensitive nature of the request. Everything this judge is doing, he's saying, considering the time that is available to one of the parties in the person of Atiku, We have to look at everything to make sure that we do not deny him justice based on technicalities. These are what they have. Who is writing this? Oh my goodness, JP. Justice versus technicalities. We need to clap our hand for JP. Justice no be by wearing the longest wig in the world. I agree. I think this should be the most trending tweet in the whole of Nigeria today. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. Now, it says here, time-sensitive nature, in Nigeria, Counsel for Chicago State University indicated that it was ready to comply with Judge Gilbert's order, and it took no position on whether the order should stand or what standard of review should apply. That's another beautiful thing I scooped from that place. Now, another wonderful thing I scooped here was the mathematics of trying to batter Atiku with time, that these judges eventually squeezed and say, hey, you guys should hold it there. Now look at it here. It says, Counsel for Mr. Abubakar indicated his understanding that Mr. Abubakar has a final deadline of October 5. Now, let me pause here and explain something. What it means, just like we've been saying, is that indeed, on the rules of appealing to the Supreme Court, they also have a window period of number 1, to submit your appeal, and number 2, to submit additional evidence if you have any. Because if these rules were not true, these people would have busted it down and said that Atiku is lying because there is no deadline in Nigeria. Hello? If indeed this deadline is not realistic, do you think that the president's team wouldn't have started to begin to charge Atiku for lying on the oath? That tells us that further evidence to substantiate his case, not new evidence, further evidence to substantiate his previous prayers, there is still a window up until October 5. That's point number 1 here. It says, Counsel for Mr. Abubakar indicated his understanding that Mr. Abubakar has a final deadline of October 5 to attempt to present the requested evidence to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and therefore the court ordered an expedited brief schedule far shorter than 14 days generally allotted under the rules. The court required President Tinubu to file an objection to Judge Gilbert's order by September 25th by 9 a.m. Mr. Abubakar to file his response to those objections by September 27th, and President Tinubu to file any reply on 28th. The parties timely submitted their filings. The court has reviewed the filings, Judge Gilbert's ruling, and the record, and the issue is ripe for decision. They thought that when they made that appeal, that they would begin to sluggishly have 14 days to file their listing, which will be after. But the court crunched everything immediately and gave them timeline, because we know that Atiku has 5th of October. Tinubu, you have 25th to submit whatever you have to say. Atiku, you have 27 to reply. And Tinubu, you have final day for your own counter reply, 28. And that was done on 28. And between 28, 29, 30th, within 2 days, the judge has summarized everything, read everything, and gave us 33-page judgment. In fact, she decided that she was not going to call them to sit together to deliver judgment, that she will mail the judgment to them in what they call a docket. What do you call judgment? Remember what they say, that a justice delayed is justice denied. Compare it with our courts, dragging the whole of 6 months to listen to Presidential Elections Petition Court. And the Supreme Court is now going to take a whole 2 months to do their own. Compare it. I want us to be comparing it. This judge deprived herself. Remember that when this appeal was lodged last week by Atiku, by Tinubu, the judge said that she has a busy weekend. But despite the fact that she has a busy weekend, she called them virtually to make their case. And you can see that by 29th, which was Friday, no, 28th, which was Friday, that this woman walked all through Saturday and the whole of Friday after the submission and Saturday, and deliver judgment as quickly as possible, suspending other things and make sure that we hear and we get what we should get. Okay, another thing I scooped here. I call it scoop because there are plenty, but I just keep scooping and keep scooping and keep scooping, and they're all beautiful. All right. If anybody was sponsoring this particular channel, as I'm sifting through this paper, this is the time we'll be playing our commercial. Now listen, in page 17, here, while President Tinubu frames that the Court of Appeals decision in Nigeria as creating procedural bar. Now listen, this particular judge found out after she read the judgment of our court that the court in Nigeria used a procedural bar to make it impossible for Atiku's case to be ventilated. Can you hear it? Because the judge requested the judgment of the Presidential Elections Petitions Court, and after reading it, she found out that our own judges created a concrete wall of rules, and they used it to trash Atiku Abubakar's evidence. It's here. Page 17 of the judgment, the last paragraph. It says, Atiku has not provided any testimony or evidence indicating that this Court of Appeal decision somehow prevents the Supreme Court of Nigeria and in its discretion from considering new arguments and evidence under exceptional circumstances. You know why? I saw something going online where they're saying that the Supreme Court will not even accept this. I heard them saying it all over online. Beautiful. But you see, this judgment by this woman will remind even our Supreme Court justices that other judges around the world are telling them, don't create another procedural bar. Don't use technicalities of procedure to deny Nigerian justice. Do you know how? I'll read further to show you the indicting situation this woman made here, that if our judges are listening, they should sit up. It says, President Tinubu's first objection to Judge Gilbert's finding by pointing to the decision by the Court of Appeal in Nigeria rejecting Abubakar's elections challenge. President Tinubu asserted that the Nigerian Court of Appeal held that evidence relating to President Tinubu's education and graduation from Chicago State University is absolutely bad and cannot be considered under any circumstance. Because Mr. Abubakar failed to raise the evidence in his final petition and only mentioned it for the first time in his reply submission to the Court of Appeal. In other words, President Tinubu maintains that the discovery cannot be for use because it is subject to an absolute procedural bar. And the Supreme Court of Nigeria will need to lift the procedural bar before Mr. Abubakar could even attempt to amend his original petition to include any new allegation or supporting evidence from Chicago State University. Now, listen, the court overrules this objection. As Mr. Abubakar points out that in his response, President Tinubu has ignored the case authority discussed above and cited by Judge Gilbert in his opinion that the court is not to consider whether the evidence sought is ultimately admissible in the foreign procedure when determining whether it is for use in said procedure. Now, it's trying to say here, if you read further, the court is trying to say, it's no longer our business. Now, listen, it says, rather, at least for the purpose of for use inquiry, it is sufficient that there is a legal mechanism or process by which the requested discovery could be used in the foreign procedure. The judge is trying to say here, just by mere mentioning by Atiku that he needed for a procedure in the foreign land is enough. Meaning, as we said here before, it is not the duty of anybody to tell the judge in America whether the judges in Nigeria will accept it or not accept it. It is our duty to give it to whosoever asks. If he eventually comes to Nigeria and they reject it, they have done their own job. You see how people that are reasoning, you see? Oh. Okay. Now listen, let me read again and then I will try to summarize. Here, while President Tinubu frames the Court of Appeal's decision as creating procedural, he has not provided any testimony or evidence indicating that the Supreme Court, that a Court of Appeal decision somehow prevents the Supreme Court in its discretion from considering new arguments and evidence under exceptional circumstances. Indeed, President Tinubu expressly considered that was the case before Judge Gilbert, and he still does not dispute that this procedural mechanism for presenting evidence to the Supreme Court of Nigeria under exceptional circumstances exists. Did you hear it? And he still does not dispute. Let me say it again the way we teach children. Tinubu's team did not dispute that Supreme Court's ability to accept additional evidence under exceptional circumstances exists. They did not dispute it, which means they know it exists. And which means Nigerians, I want all of us to know that if the Supreme Court trashes this, whatever they give to Atiku, they are using another technicality, because if they want to give justice to Nigeria, they are supposed to accept additional evidence under this what again? Exceptional circumstance. That room and that window exists. Tinubu knows it. Atiku knows it. The judges knows it. Even the judge in America knows it. So if they do not accept this thing when Atiku brings it, it's deliberate. They just want to follow in the path of appeal courts. Because in the first place, the same thing they gave the Chicago State University gave to what's his name? Enahoro Eba. That is what this court will give to Atiku. Besides, even if they give Atiku a different thing, Atiku has been mandated by law to interview them to determine who signed it, who made the request, when was the request made, and why was it released. But that is not the end. This is the one that will kill what is important. Just Nigerians, please, I beg you, allow me read this thing. You will love it. The court overrules, he said, President Tinubu separately objects to Judge Gilbert's conclusion that all the discoveries sought by Atiku Abubakar is relevant and therefore for use in Nigerian proceedings. He said President Tinubu separately objects. He objected it that it is relevant and therefore for use in Nigerian proceedings. President Tinubu maintains that because Abubakar's challenge in Nigeria is based on the allegedly fraudulent diplomas submitted to INEC, the only discovery that is relevant for use is that challenge is for use in that challenge is document and testimony related to the diploma that was submitted. That is, you remember when he said release only the certificate and confirm, nothing about the academic record. Now listen what the court said. President Tinubu therefore argues that the discovery that goes beyond the diploma certificate, such as the request for testimony by the Chicago State University documents and records produced in other proceedings brought by other challenger like Enahoraba, are not properly seen as for use in Abubakar's foreign proceedings. Now listen, that was Tinubu's lawyer's position, and listen to what the court says. The court overrules this objection as well. Why? The judge says, it is true, as President Tinubu points out, and as Judge Gilbert himself recognized, that the primary issue that seems to motivate Mr. Abubakar's application for discovery and argument in this case is the question of whether the Chicago State University diploma that was submitted to INEC, which bears the name Bola Ahmed Tinubu, dated June 22nd, 1979, is genuine or whether it was forged. But as Judge Gilbert also recognized, Mr. Abubakar does not just question the authenticity of one diploma, but also questions whether President Tinubu actually attended and received any undergraduate degree from Chicago State University at all. This was what set loose the whole thing, because the judge now says, if Atiku is questioning whether this person attended this university at all, I will grant all the prayers that Judge Gilbert had previously granted, because it is only by granting those prayers that we will now know the real Coco, who entered the school, which year did they enter, who signed the original certificate, what is the difference between the fonts, that year was it 3 signatures, is the logo different from the logo now, was it a female or a male? Oh my goodness. I don't know, madam, if you appreciate where I'm coming from now. It says, let me read it again. Judge Gilbert also recognized Mr. Abubakar does not just question the authenticity of one diploma, but also questions whether President Tinubu actually attended and received any undergraduate degree from Chicago State University. Notwithstanding the fact that Chicago State University has stated that President Tinubu did attend and receive a degree in June 22, 1979. In other words, while Mr. Abubakar's challenge to the election result is tied to the submission of an alleged fraudulent diploma, he has raised another broader claims in the same proceeding before the Court of Appeal in Nigeria about the identity and graduation, as well as the authenticity and origin of other Chicago State University documents that were obtained and produced as part of the Nigerian proceedings. Madam, talk. I'm done talking. I am done talking.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
My question is, you said they are going to testify under oath.
Yes, the Chicago State University.
Yeah, the staff. So
Yes.
does it mean Atiku is also going to present their testimony to the Supreme Court?
Of course, whatever they testified under oath is going to carry the seal of the notary public, which means it's binding, it's legal. Forget about whatever our court decide to do. You see, let's even imagine that the court botched us here in Nigeria, and Atiku has his own. In the next campaign in 2027, PDP or any party will say, don't vote a party that used to finish the rest.
He will not even be a part of the contest.
It does not matter if he is or not the part of the context. Anybody that stands will be standing under the flag of a party who had once given us. You understand what I mean? So the implications are a lot. And aside from that, if what Atiku is alleging is eventually confirmed, for the rest of the lifespan of this government, none of those APC members can come to talk church because Nigerians have known what is the cocoa. They have known.
That is, if only the Supreme Court does not have the lever to.
Yes, I'm trying to say, assuming the Supreme Court tossed it, but what Atiku alleged is confirmed. Now, the Supreme Court might keep somebody in the office, but in the heart of Nigerians, is he in the office of our hearts? You know, you can't. How do I put it? If you have seen revolution, you've seen how people who are motivated will be coming, the army will be shooting them and they are coming. It's not the bullet that they are seeing their destination. So Nigerians, like we've been saying, we want to rest this case. And trust me, unless Atiku decided to keep it to himself, but I know it's going to filter in the public domain. By tomorrow, around this time tomorrow, we will know if Atiku will decide to give it to us or not, because the judge says no extension of time to Chicago State University and no stay of execution to Tinubu. So Tinubu's lawyers are clipped. Chicago State University are constrained. They must produce all the records before 2 p.m. Chicago time tomorrow. And before 5 p.m. Chicago time on Tuesday, they must have finished deposing all the people that they need to depose.
Doc, I wanted to know, should Atiku get this document? Will he release it to the public, or will he still secretly give it to the Supreme Court?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's what I just said now.
Yeah, but you didn't explain it very well. I didn't understand what you...
I said, unless Atiku decides to keep it under wrap.
Okay.
But whether he keeps it under wrap today or tomorrow, the highest we are going to hear, he might decide to say, oh, so it will not be prejudice. He might decide to say, oh, let them not say it's prejudice. He refuses to release it and forward it to the court alone. Then after the judgment, the court will say whatever they will say. But trust me, this is currently the property of Atiku. We will hear, we will know. Whether tomorrow, whether a day after tomorrow, whether this October or November or going forward. The most important thing is that every barrier to stop Nigeria to finally get to know which one is the truth since 2003 till date, that barrier is finally vacated. That's the most important thing. Since 2003, 20 years, or add it since 2019, because it was in the first tenure that Ganifa Wimi was fighting. So 24 years. This 24 years, 24. Let me finish reading this thing. Please forgive me. Let me just read one last paragraph and we go. In short, this is the way the judge put it. In short, Mr. Abubakar's claim before the Court of Appeal, which he's seeking to revive before the Supreme Court of Nigeria, were not limited solely to the authenticity of a single document. Remember, they have read, but rather generally raised questions about Tinubu's and Chicago State University's assertions about his attendance and graduation. Therefore, discovery on other documents from Chicago State University related to President Tinubu's attendance and graduation are relevant to Abubakar's claims and are properly considered to be for use in foreign proceedings. Again, whether or not the Supreme Court of Nigeria will ultimately consider any of these materials is not a question before this court. Are you hearing it?
Yes.
It says Section 1782 requires that for use in foreign proceeding, not for successful use in foreign proceeding. Did you hear how the judge put it? He says that what the Section 1782 Act in America requires for use, not for successful. Whether I succeed or fail is not our business. Nigerians, why we know the read, sir? This thing come out today. Why we know the read? Request it for me and I will send you the judgment. I know you have it. Can't read the 23 pages. You will laugh. You'll be so happy to see when judges are writing. They write they have this. Judges should wear human face and say, this is what judgment should be. Remember that story they used to tell us in the Bible about two women who are dragging a child. And they came to Solomon. And Solomon said, now, because two of you are dragging this child, I'm going to cut them into two and give you half. And the other one said, yes, do it. Give me half. And Solomon said, no. And this person get this child. And when he was asked why, he said, no human. Okay, remember the other woman said, no problem. Don't cut into two. She been saying she wants to give him. When this child grows up, he will find who is the mother. And the judge Solomon said, now this woman that is even ready to lose her child, now she get her. Why? Because the common sense tells you there's no human being who will give birth to a child and say, cut my child so that I can get half. You say, don't worry, leave the child alive. Where is that kind of sense of that humane approach? Everything Nigerians suffered, the battering of some people's eyes, the lie of the INEC, the brutality by the police, the cutting away of ballot paper with government vehicle, the judges decided that they could not even appease Nigerians. Even if they would rule against Nigerians, they could have recognized it. They could have lambasted INEC before they give the judgment. They just abolished all those things and treated Nigerians like we're trash. Where is the humanity, the humaneness of those people who sat in that temple of justice? Where are they? Where is it? And tomorrow we blame Oyibo for our problem. Look at how Oyibo is trying to say, somebody has a court paper to file. We don't want to delay this person. Let's do this thing quick and balance everybody. In fact, somewhere the judge said, we stopped to listen to Atiku, to Tinubu, because he deserved the right to be heard. And now, having heard, we found out that his case lacked merit. Okay, we have almost done 1 hour here. I never knew. I thought we'll just do this in 20-30 minutes and go.
Doc, let's quickly take some of the comments that we have here. So guys, okay, I posted the link to my Twitter, that's X. Please do well to follow me. I need that support from you. Thank you. So the document will be out tomorrow. Yes, like Doc has said, tomorrow by 12 noon.
By 2 p.m. By 2 p.m. of Chicago time. Okay. 2 p.m. Chicago time. Anything is it? Judge Nancy makes Nigerian judges look like the I don't want to use my mouth to say it, that they are in front of the entire world. You're on your own.
Yes, at least they can learn from the United States now.
Yes. Somebody says Atiku has nothing to lose, but Nigeria has everything to gain. Remember, I keep saying it. It depends on what we call this winning. This winning, this victory is in different contexts. There is a context of the victory that Nigeria is about to get. And that context of the victory is to establish that all the lies being told about our president, all the wrong allegations is quite finally debunked by whatever Chicago State University releases. Or that all the gagging and protection that a man is innocent when he is not, we'll get to know. So I don't know if it is right. I don't know if it is left. I don't know what is contained in that document, but let the truth be known from tomorrow. Let this 23, 24 years, let this over 20 years mystery be finally demystified. And let this 23-year mystery be finally demystified. All thanks to Atiku Abubakar. If he had not lost in the courts, maybe we may have not known. It is a shame for our judiciary that the whole world are putting our court decision into doubt because. I see, man. That's it.
Tooth and nail. You may or may not have heard that Atiku is going to get the record he has been asking the Chicago State University to give to him. We all know that the president of Nigeria appealed the ruling that a judge gave because Atiku won this case initially, but they went and appealed it. And now again, this present judge has finally ruled again, giving the Chicago State University the mandate to release everything Atiku is asking. As in, before noon tomorrow, they should ensure they've released all the records Atiku is seeking for. Remember, Atiku has just a time. I think on the 5th of October will be the deadline for him to hand over all these things to the Supreme Court. And Atiku has been fighting tooth and nail. Finally, he has gotten the victory he has been fighting for. So the judge has finally ruled that Atiku should be given this document without any delay. I mean, without any delay, Nigerians. This is shocking. Yesterday, we equally told you guys that today is the 1st of October. We are looking forward to the FBI releasing the document they promised David Hundeyin and his colleague, those of them that sue the FBI and other organizations like that in the US, that they want the president of Nigeria's information to be released to them. Then he was a private citizen, but now he is a public citizen. So they have the right to ask for information about him. And the FBI replied them and told them, okay, we are going to release the information that you guys are asking for. We have about 2,500 documents that will be releasing. We will be giving them to you guys, as in every month, 500 pages. Every month will be released to David and Co. And we can't just wait to see what those documents are going to contain. But yesterday we said possibly he might even be clean. So why stopping them from releasing your information? They should just release it and let Nigerians get to know what it contains. So guys, this is a very, very great news for the Nigerian people. And you can see this person is saying justice no be by wearing the longest wig in the world. He now plays justice on the side of these US judges and technicality on the side of our judges, because assuming this case was to be handled in Nigeria, Atiku wouldn't have gotten what he's asking for. They will keep delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. But the American judges, they were working with time. They wanted to give Atiku response, as in the reply they have for him, without them affecting his time. They were very conscious that Atiku is working towards going to the Supreme Court to submit his appeal. He has submitted maybe to give his backup document. So they were really trying to make sure they don't eat into his time. And that's why they're giving this ruling, and Nigerians have really welcomed this. And they're like, if this was to be in Nigeria, you can imagine. So I don't know, for the opposition for Tinubu and his camp, I know that they won't really like this latest development, because by tomorrow is Monday, by noon of tomorrow, Atiku must have gotten all this information that he wants them to give to him. And, all the things they've been trying to cover and all that, Nigerians will get to know. Yes, we'll get to know. Because it is no longer news that people do not really know where he schooled, his primary school and all that. So people really want to get this information firsthand. And tomorrow is that D-Day, as the court has ruled that this information, a document that Atiku is seeking for, should be released to him by the Chicago State University. And one might ask if they are going to still appeal him. From the look of things, I don't think it will be that possible for them, because once Atiku gets this, he will quickly want to use it for what he wants to use it for without any delay. So guys, yeah, this is what is happening. And Nigerians are like saying that this is how you get to know a country that follows rule of law versus a country that just does things to favor politicians. We saw what happened during the election, during the tribunal judgment, how the judges were like, as if they came for the petitioners. They were like lambasting the petitioners. If you think you are going to use the social media to work against, there were so many things. I may not really say it exact, but the way this judgment was handed over to the Nigerian people, so many people have come out to condemn it, the way the judges were just ruling. So like what you can see on my screen here is the two different certificates that our president, let me not say he's having. This is the two different certificates that have been circulating on the internet. And yes, by the time Chicago State University releases what they have, Nigerians will get to know exactly which of these is the correct one, if the one that was submitted to INEC is the original one or not. And if not, you know what that means. Honestly, this is a very, very, I will call it a great progress that Atiku Abubakar has made in terms of, because only this information that he's going to get from the Chicago State University can make or mar the sitting president's political journey or his career. And that's why, for me, I keep saying, if he had known, he wouldn't have even come out to vie for this the position of the presidency. He would have just honorably retired, because he has been in the polity for a very long time. And people have, according to people, they felt his impact in Lagos, and then he has groomed other young politicians to where they are today. I think he would have, respectfully retire, and then you will still have young politicians that will come to pay homage to him, give him respect, even take care of him. Those of them that he calls his boys that he has groomed, right from the time that he was the governor of Lagos State. So he's like a grandfather to some of these politicians. So if he had retired and become an elder statesman, I think that would have been more honorable for him than coming out and then you want to submit all kinds of documents. And Nigerians, I don't even know how you people feel when you see all this news on the internet. You go to Twitter, the president of Nigeria, your name is trending, not even on a good note. I think for me, that is even the most touching aspect of all these things, because sometimes I just keep wondering, people all over the world will be seeing this. And these platforms, they push some of this information even to places that people don't need it. You will just come across it. But it's also a time for Nigerian politicians to learn their lessons, because all these things are possible because of the youths of Nigeria that have woken up. Even though Atiku was the one pressing to get this information, but the youth, the obedient, were like encouraging Atiku not to give up. People were speculating that he's been begged, he's been asked to withdraw and all that. Like we said yesterday, some people were busy writing Atiku letter. Please don't let us down. Keep fighting. Don't collect anything and all that. Yes, because we want to get to the root of the matter. So that brings me to the tribunal ruling. People may think, oh, the tribunal has ruled, the tribunal has ruled. The tribunal ruled and said so many things that Nigerians do not even agree with. Because at the time they told us that Abuja is like any other state, meaning we now have 37 states instead of 36. They also told us that it wasn't Tinubu that committed the future. It was his bank account that they said, I think Shetima, his double nomination, that he didn't do it intentionally. Nigerians, we really need to go back to the ruling of judges, I mean, from the tribunal. That's why people are like, I shared this image not quite long. This person tweeted and said, see, justice no be by wearing the longest wig in the world, justice versus technicalities. This is what we are saying. These people, look at how simple they look, but they kept to their words and they didn't want to like favor any particular party or group for any reason. They nailed it, and Nigerians have welcomed the ruling. They welcomed their decision, the judgment they've given. They said Chicago State University release the information because it is needed, and the person who is asking for that has the right, and he wants to use it for a good cause. And Atiku is going to get what he's asking for. So, guys, yes, this is really something to rejoice about because it is time. I don't know if you've watched the video that Peter Obi was speaking in the US. I posted that video yesterday. I streamed it here. He was talking about people, claiming degrees and certificates that they can't even. It's not good for our quality. It's not even good for our country. This kind of thing is not trending in any other place, if not in Nigeria. I mean, it's not even only at the presidential level. Look at Enugu. It was the same thing. The Enugu governor used an NYSC certificate that is allowed to have been forged. And the NYSC is a superintendent or what the leader send somebody in court to come and testify that they didn't issue this. They even testified that this certificate didn't come from us. But what happened? During the final ruling, they told us that it's not a criteria. It's not one of the things that is needed. They don't need NYSC certificate for you to vie for this position. So it is null and void. You can imagine this kind of ruling coming from our judges. They don't want to call a spade a spade. Sometimes I don't even know how these people want to, the kind of legacy they want to leave behind for their children and for people who are looking up to them. We have young people who want to become lawyers and tomorrow they want to become judges and all that. What kind of legacy are they leaving behind for these people? I don't know. And they will just be giving all kind of funny rulings. Somebody that brought a certificate, he cannot really tell where the source is from, and then you tell Nigerians that it doesn't matter, that is not what is needed. After all, you mustn't be a graduate to become the president or even the governor of a state. You mustn't. But when you tell us that you went to school, you'll be asked to bring a certificate to back that up. When you bring a forged certificate, the Constitution said you should be disqualified. If you've been sworn in, you should be relieved of that position. That is what our Constitution says. But that doesn't happen in Nigeria, honestly. So from what the tribunal in Enugu ruled, they are now saying that Mba remains the governor of Enugu State. When we know that he submitted something else, something that was forged. Meaning we are not standing with our constitution. These are the people who are meant to interpret the law, explain the law, so that people will understand it. But when it comes to that, they tweak it in all forms that people even at the end of the day get confused. We are just happy that this ruling has come. I just pray that Justice Samani and other judges in Nigeria will get to know, they will get to learn. Let them learn, as in, let them learn. You don't come to the court and begin to say the petitioner failed, the petitioner failed, the petitioner failed, the petitioner failed, the petitioner did this. The way they lambasted Peter Obi during the judgment, you'll be wondering if he ever provoked any of these judges, So, yeah, that is it. Look at this person said, like for Judge Gilbert, retweet for Judge, for comment for injustice. And the name of our judge is there, Justice Samani. You know, instead of justice, he now wrote injustice Samani. This is where we are today. You can imagine. People are losing their trust, their confidence in our judiciary. This is not supposed to be. Just leave these politicians. They will come and retire. Nigeria has come to stay. Let's save Nigeria. Let's save the future of Nigeria. It's not even because of Peter Obi, neither is it because of Atiku. But at least for the future, for our younger generation, they will grow up to read this judgment, to read all this ruling. They will like compare it with what the constitution said at that time and what the judge ruled, and some of them will be surprised. Don't be surprised that in coming months, people will get to write books about what has just transpired in this Nigerian polity in 2023. People will write books, I mean, interesting books, because we've seen all manner of things people never expected to see. You know, they were asking Peter Obi to go and bring a kind of agent from every polling unit. How could that be possible? How? When we saw live all the malpractices, all the threats, all the things that happened, how the election were rigged. We saw blood documents. We saw those that were blank, that were even uploaded to the IREF. Not just seeing them, they are there. And then you ask me, how did they come up with the number we used in declaring somebody to have won the election? And the judges didn't even rebuke INEC. INEC, how did you get the different images? Because some people even said there was image of a woman in the bathroom, image of a letter, image of this, that, this. You know, there were so many things that people talked about. But, you know, the professor that analyzed Peter Obi's results came out to say they had 18,000 plus blurred stroke blank result sheets. And our judges, I don't know, the IREF is there as an evidence. You must go there to see all these things for yourself. But they said they didn't bring enough evidence, they didn't bring enough of this, so Atiku has taken them unawares. Only this certificate of a thing is just enough to, like, you know, cause the biggest damage. I mean, just the certificate of a thing. So we are just hoping that the appeal court is going to admit this. Yes, we are just hoping they are going to admit it, because the law allows Atiku to bring more documents to back up what he initially presented at the tribunal level. So he has that right. We just want to believe that they will not come again to rule on the basis of technicality and tell us that this document you brought is not what's, you know, being added to what we already have and all that. Yes, we look forward to that, you know, not happening, not repeating itself again like what we saw during the election tribunal. And for me, this is a very big breakthrough. We just hope that the tribunal judges are going to consider Nigeria first, not our politicians. Let them consider Nigeria first. Let them consider, you know, Nigeria, the future of our young Nigerians, even our youths that are leaving Nigeria in their droves because of the situation of things. No employment, the naira is falling by day, and so many things. We just need the right person. You can imagine, how will you think that this government will be able to, like, articulate properly with all these controversies? Every day is a fresh news. How would they be able to, like, gather themselves together and start executing what they planned, if I thought they had any plan for Nigeria? How would they be able with all these things? And Peter Obi keeps saying, if you want to become an excellency, let the process, let it just be excellent. So you don't have any distraction. Because what we are having today, we have a government that is highly distracted, and that has left us where we are today. Look, nothing is really working in Nigeria. So for us, the obedient family, and for patriotic Nigerians, I mean, politics aside, if you are a patriotic Nigerian, a Nigerian that really want to see Nigeria, I think you should celebrate this development, because it's also going to sanitize the system to a certain level. Some of these politicians will get to know that you don't just pick a certificate from nowhere to present during INEC submission because you think it's going to be business as usual. You know, these things didn't start today. They've been there all this while. People will just submit and they always know how to, like, you know, make their way whenever they judge, whenever they go to court. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. You see that in Kaduna. A lot of things happened in Kaduna, but they upheld the current government, the current governor that he won. Yes, we don't even want to talk about that of the governorship election. That of the presidential is the one that concerns us the most because it was at that point that INEC told us that the IREF couldn't work anymore, that they had a glitch, they can't upload. It was during that of the presidential, and that is why it concerns us the most. Why INEC would just take Nigerians unaware after telling us hours before the election that no going back to the initial announcement, results will be uploaded real time from the polling unit. Everybody is going to see. And then when it got to that time, INEC said, we had a glitch. They didn't even come out to tell us what was happening until after the election. They ended up saying we had a glitch. This is just a grammar that did not still come out to break it down for Nigerians to understand. And the tribunal judges gave them pass mark. APC said the INEC chairman did a fabulous work, a fabulous job. He did an excellent job. You know, everybody, they were giving him pass mark, pass mark. Nobody rebuked INEC. Considering the amount of money we used for this election, Nigerians, consider how much was used for this election on the basis of we want to bring in technology, and then that technology was abandoned. And nobody is being held responsible. They are rather rebuking Peter Obi and Atiku for bringing their cases, their petitions to the tribunal to help them sort it out. They were being rebuked. They were being, you know, they blasted them with so many, will I even call, I don't know if I should say accusation or what, but we are just hoping that the Supreme Court will summon this courage, you know, to give Nigerians justice. We spoke last time that the Minister for Justice was the lead counsel for the APC. So we don't know how that is going to affect the judgment that will be coming from the Supreme Court. We don't know, but we are just hoping that the judges will summon courage. We know that the pressure will be there. There is no doubt about that. Everybody knows that once you're in Nigeria, what happens in Nigeria will keep happening. Once you are in Nigeria, when it comes to Nigeria, those things we know will keep happening. Except you bring in people like Peter Obi, who through their integrity, they want to sanitize the system, sanitize the government bodies, sanitize our institutions so that we'll put people of integrity, people who have conscience, who are not just there for their own selfish interests. They really want to save Nigeria so that people will remain burdened years after. This is what Peter Obi is planning, is promised the Nigerian people, and that is why we voted for him. But like you can see, they don't want that to happen. So we really welcome this decision from the United States. So by tomorrow, Atiku is going to get this information. He's going to get this document. And yeah, I think the next step will just be to submit them to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court will start sitting this month. The judgment, the final judgment might come this month or next month. So by November, let's say by ending of November, we will know who is the president of Nigeria. We'll get to know who the Supreme Court is going to declare as the president of Nigeria, because any declaration they give this time is going to be final. You can't appeal it. But like we've always said, even if they say Peter Obi didn't win, Nigerians, we know we have fought a good fight in this journey. We have really fought a good fight. And yes, no doubt, we've made a lot of progress. Peter Obi has helped the Nigerian polity. People will get to know that you don't just wake up and say, I want to go and contest. You will check yourself very well. You will check your documents. If you feel INEC form, you want to go over it over and over to ensure you didn't tick yes where you were meant to tick no. Neither did you tick no where you were meant to tick yes. This is one of the things that we've achieved. You know, people will not just wake up to say they want to become president without checking if their certificates were gotten elsewhere. They want to be sure that everything they are bringing to the table, they are all sound.